Hey guys, Brent Hull Build Show. Whether you like it or not, there's a story being written about your projects. Come find out more on the Build Show. You hear me talk about narrative quite a bit, the story of a house and the houses that we're building. I'll talk about a narrative and I'll talk about what that means. Well, I get pushback from time to time, and I really want to explain what it is so that everybody's clear. You know, this is a house in England that I took a picture of a long time ago, 20 years ago. And it still resonates in my mind, okay, as being where Hansel and Gretel lived. It tells a story. Well, why? Well, immediately we know that there's history here. Immediately we know that it's old. It has the thatch roof, for instance. Thatch roofs are really something that's done in the past. Then there are a few fine artisans that still do thatch roofs, but we've got a thatch roof. We've got leaded glass windows. We've got this little garden gate. We've got the age of the shrubs and this garden, this kind of hidden garden there. And so already there's, you know, in this wood plank door, the size of the windows. You see what I'm doing? I'm looking at all the different things, and they give clues for when it was built, why it was built, who it was built for. It draws us in. When we look at what makes a house great, obviously there's a lot of conditions, but think about this in terms of new houses that are built today, and think about it in terms of manufacturers and cookie cutter things where things are done over and over again. And this house is obviously very unique. The whole idea is that there is a story. I mean, there's this book, guys, storybook style, okay? This is a book that's all about houses built in the 20s. They go through and basically, you know, they look at these old castles and they look at these old things, and they help us design better things today, the timber framing and the different way we used to build. And so when we're building, and because of this, because I look in the past and I see these great houses, I want to infuse stories into our houses. How does a story happen? Well, there's layering, okay? So you go to a house and you've been back 3 or 4 times and you go, oh, you know what? I never noticed that before. We like to put those into our houses, and we like to craft these details that you notice them later, right? You don't notice them first time, right? All those little things that make historic houses great, we want to infuse into our new houses. And so I'm always talking about this narrative. And so when I'm doing consulting jobs, when I'm doing those drafting where I'm fixing houses, most of the time I'm doing that by infusing history, infusing story, right? Infusing character into the house so that it has a better narrative. Realize, guys, there is a narrative already written, okay? It's really how well you're gonna write it. It's really how well you're gonna craft it. Even a production house has a narrative, right? That you drive by and you go, oh, it's cheap, right? And that might be its story. Realize that there is a narrative, okay? Whether you like it or not. Now, think about the projects that we've done. The Pennsylvania farmhouse is a great example of a house with a very clear narrative. We actually ended up placing it in the late 1800s in a rural aspect, right? With additions and changes that had happened over the last 60, 70 years. So we had a 1920s, 1930s kitchen in there. And we had, you know, older parts of the house. And so we really worked hard to tell a story, right? Now, people go, well, that's false. Okay, yes, in that it isn't the real house that was sitting there. We are artists in some respects. We are creating things. And so it's okay to create things that aren't new, right? It's okay to create things that have a background. And really what we're doing is we're looking at the past and we're saying, there's a great house. I'm inspired by that. I want to copy that. I want to do that and raise the level of our craft and create things that are beautiful. So if everything has to be new, we're going to have a lot of ugly things. And so really looking to the past and helping us craft a narrative is important. And so quit getting on me about creating a false narrative. You think about the Victorian house we did down in Granbury, really an early house for Granbury, for Texas, okay? So there was an original 2-room bay with a central stair. In, you know, the 1890s, we believe-ish, that time there was a kitchen added on, and then there was all these different kinds of things added later. There was a modern kitchen in there, and there was a bad bathroom upstairs, and there was some things that had been added to over time that just didn't work anymore or looked cheap, or, you know, and there was things that were about the house that were rotting after 150 years, right? There were some things that needed to be fixed or hadn't been fixed right in previous iterations. So we took historic photos, we took the historical documentation, we peeled back a lot of layers and really rediscovered this house and the wonder of it. And now we have to put it together for a client. So we're introducing new things like better bathrooms and a new kitchen. And so, you know, making those things make sense and be cohesive was, you know, part of the challenge and part of the fun. In between that new, where we added on that kitchen, we have a wall there, okay? And it's gonna be a timber framed wall, and there's large timbers there, and there's gonna be stone around the outside. Now, well, why is that there? Well, if you understand and you look downtown Granbury, it's all this natural Luder stone that covers up every building. And so it's really part of the story of Granbury. It's really part of how that downtown was put together. So there's some important features there that infuse it or connect it to the rest of Granbury that, you know, make it special. I mean, considering the alternative, what else could we have done to that cased opening, right? We could have, you know, cased it with modern trim, right? We could have put a weird arch in there. We could have done some things that take you out of the story, don't remind you of where you are, don't give it a sense of place. Really finding a narrative, finding a story, finding something that's cohesive is really important and does make a difference. Being inspired from the past is a good thing, right? But realize that there's drawbacks too. If we really wanted to craft that true 1870s, 1881 Victorian, it didn't have any bathrooms in it. It didn't have a kitchen, right? What are we gonna do? Not put a kitchen in because it, you know, wasn't authentic, wasn't there? No, we have to craft a story so that we can introduce some of these modern features, right, into the house so that it makes sense. We're solving problems with all of these things. We're solving ways to build so that they're beautiful and they make sense. The narrative, okay, is my terminology, is a way of explaining why things look the way they look, why things are the way they are. And so I can still think walking through these great historic houses where you're inside a porch and you look, there's an outside window and you're like, wait, why is there an outside window and I'm still inside? And then you go, oh, they must have added this on later, but they kept that window there. That's a charming feature, right? That's a charming thing that you go, oh, wouldn't that be kind of fun to introduce that into a house? Well, yes, it's a false narrative, but it's part of that charm. It's part of that wonder, okay, that happens with architecture that we fall in love with. Okay, guys, let me know what you think in the comments. I'm Brent Hull. Thanks for watching.